Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Choi. Wow.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here today.
I'm pumped to be here.
What a pleasure. This is just like a celebrity, an Austin celebrity
Don't say
for
that.
sure. Yeah, you are. He comes in the door. You guys missed this whole before. He comes in the door running in here, goes from meeting to meeting. And I'm just thankful he said yes to me. So thank you and welcome to the show.
I am so honored to be here. I think the last time I saw you was at the sauna at the house.
Oh, yeah. You don't invite me anymore. I got to invite myself.
Actually, invite yourself, honestly.
I'm pretty sure my earrings are still there.
Your earrings are still there. Multiple people have left jewelry at my house, and you guys are making it look bad for me.
And I'm saying, hey, I got to come back and grab them. Winky face.
100%.
Yeah. Tell everyone, who is Matt Choi if they don't know you, which I'm sure a lot of the people that listen to the show.
I'm sure a lot of them still don't.
Yeah.
I am a curious individual. I feel like I'm also an optimist. I am a athlete. I'm a runner. I'm a former football player. I feel like there's so many ways to categorize who I am or explain who I am. But honestly, I think like I'm just a curious and kind-hearted person. I think if I was to be general and be like, yo, like for someone who doesn't care that I run or that I'm an athlete or that I'm a creator, like I think if people actually just met me, they'd just be like, yo, like I would hope that people would be like, yo, like Matt's just like a kind dude.
Yeah.
Like I think like outside of like the things I've done or I've accomplished or like things I want to do, like I think that's kind of how I would be like, yo, like I want to just be looked at as a human.
Do you feel like people think of you like that now?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I don't know. I mean, I don't really spend too much time worrying about what people think of me.
Have you always been like that?
Yes and no. I think as I was younger, like when I played football, like I also grew up in a way where I was like the quarterback of our high school team. I was a captain. So like I always kind of had like, I was like a jock. So like, it's not that I care what people think, but like, obviously like even getting like voted on their homecoming court and all those things, like people, I feel like it wasn't that I was trying so hard to be liked by people, but like the way that I carried myself naturally created that. So I think I also created this relationship where like, is it cool that people like think that I'm like a dope person? Yeah, but like if I don't actually think that about myself, then like it doesn't really matter what people are voting for me as.
Yeah.
So I think I always had that relationship where like, is it nice that some people think that I am X, Y, and Z? Of course. Equally on the bad end, people that don't like me. But the fact that I'm able to look at myself in the mirror and be really happy and content with what I see is what I valued the most.
So
I still do.
And so have you always felt like that about yourself?
I think so.
Yeah, even as like a kid, before you were homecoming king. Maybe
actually,
when you
wasn't even homecoming. I didn't even win it actually. I think it's interesting because the way I grew up, a lot of people would probably think that like it would be harder to have that internal conviction and confidence. But for whatever reason, the way that my mom raised me and my brother, like I always did feel like I was like special in my own way.
Yeah.
Even when I was like 8, 9 years old playing soccer for the first year and then going into flag football and like getting some of the validation from whether it was from coaches or like my peers when we would be playing in sport. I think part of that for me growing up was like, there was a sliver of that confidence. I just felt like, yeah, like I was able to perform or like I was just a little bit different in my own way. Yeah. So I think it was there ever since I was a kid.
And you talk about your brother and your mom raised you. Did you guys all have like a really good relationship?
Yeah, I mean, my brother was kind of like my like role model and like kind of like a form of like a father figure in a sense of like an elderly figure. Yeah. That I would always like look for counsel or for feedback. And me and my like brother just got super tight growing up because like my mom couldn't always afford a babysitter. So like we kind of watch ourselves after school and like try not to cause too much mischief like between the hours of 3 to 6 p.m. I always hung out with my brother's friends. Like being the younger brother, always having to compete, like not from just like a video game standpoint, but like actual games and like sports, like it, I think created like a chip on my shoulder. But growing up in that type of household, like obviously you get super tight with family. Yeah. And like even till this day, like me and my mom are super close. And like, I would say growing up, actually my brother and my mom were way tighter than I was with my mom. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that part of that is because like my mom and my brother are so alike. Yeah. And I'm much more like my dad in the way that I respond to things, in the way that I like like take feedback or criticism. And I think it allowed me and my mom to grow closer as I've gotten older, because my ability to understand a little bit more like EQ stuff has allowed me to understand what my mom needs from her second son versus like her and my brother being such like clashing heads sometimes.
Yeah.
Because when you're so similar, it's like a love-hate, because like you can, there's reasons why like it's so like the good times are good, but then the bad times can be bad.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of more of like an equal, I'm like kind of like cause more equilibrium in that kind of relationship, where because I'm like more like my dad and I'm more to myself and I think about things like more thoughtfully in a sense of like the bigger picture at times. It was like almost being a sounding board for my mom, because like I was always the middleman between my mom and my brother, and like anytime they would have like conflict, I'd always have to be like kind of like hearing both parties and like trying to understand and like empathize with both. And it's just like sometimes a hard spot to be into.
Yeah. You've told me like several times that you're very introverted, which
Yeah.
I always was like, no, he's not. Like you have so many people, you're around so many people. But now that I hear like this background of how you grew up, it does kind of make sense. Would you consider yourself like you've always been this introverted, extrovert kind of person?
I think so. Like it's funny because like I think my ability to turn either switch on is so comfortable that it like to the naked eye, it almost seems like unbelievable. Like, oh my God, Matt, like the way that you are at like expos or when I see you out, like I would never guess that. But I think because I've gotten so comfortable in both arenas that like it just comes natural to me. And I think at heart, I am an introverted person. Like I am way more to myself. Like I don't like if something comes up in conversation or if like people ask, like I will always be more than comfortable to share, but like it's not my first instinct to like get energy from others. Like I typically get my energy from myself. And I think it started when I was young playing sports, and like even like the art of practicing on my own, I enjoyed. Like for whatever reason, like it just like it, the process of trying to do something, I enjoyed that more than the need of having to do it in a group environment or the getting from the validation from others, because like, oh my God, like, I don't know. I think from a young age, I was wired in that way.
So it sounds like it's very like intrinsic motivation. Like you don't really need any external thing to like get the thing done. Do you ever struggle with motivation?
Very little. Yeah. I mean, I feel like to that exact point, like I'm driven so much on what I feel like I'm trying to reach, which is my own potential.
Yeah.
And like, I'm never really looking at what other people are doing. I see it.
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if there isn't like, if that kind of motivates me a little bit, but like, that's not where my cup is getting full from. Yeah. If that makes sense, right? It's like, I look at what I see myself doing as a human and the limits that I'm trying to reach. Do I see people that are in my space or that are in the category that I'm in? And I'm like, yeah, like, do I get inspired by some of the accomplishments or the things that humans are doing? Of course. But like, I'm not driven by what their result is. I feel like I'm driven solely on what I feel like I could do. If I'm giving out my max effort, if I'm doing everything in my power to put my best foot forward, like that's all I'm gauging when I cross the finish line at any race, when I do a hard workout, when I do anything. It's like, I think a lot of this is from football. Yeah. And I think so much of my journey and story as a creator, as an endurance runner now, it comes from a foundation of being a student athlete first. And for most people, they don't really know that part of me. Like most people see me now, T, and like they're like, you've been running, dude, you're that runner guy. Like, and people put me in that box, but that's not the box I play in.
Yeah. What is the box?
It's a big box. I feel like it's at this point truly like limitless. Like I feel like I have the confidence to play in whatever the new box there is. Yeah. And for me, it's always changing. Whether it's the high rocks, whether it's the running, whether it's endurance, whether it's content, whether it's business, whether it's like fill in the blank. Like I feel like I want to be a type of person that's fluent in multiple boxes. And for me, like that's what I'm continuing to carve. I feel like the reason I feel like gotten burnt out in this space is that like I'm not attached to staying or being relevant in just one thing. Mm-hmm. Like I talked to my buddy Tim this morning, like if people only remember me as a runner, then I sold myself short. And I think for me, it's like, yes, that's the current hobby and format that I can communicate what I want to speak, but like that won't be there forever. Yeah. Like my interest will change. my ambition will change to do something else. And like the ability to still bring the foundational tools that I've learned through this journey, I think will translate into the next box that I want to play in.
Why do you feel like people should know about your football journey?
Well, I think they should know. It's not that they should or shouldn't. I just think it's a foundational piece of who I am.
I guess, why do you want them to know?
Because I think it would help people to understand that like this doesn't happen overnight.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think so many people see my running journey and they're like, Matt, like I've been training for 10 years to run sub 3 and you did it within your second year. Yeah. Like if people understood the amount of training volume that I have on my body, yeah, like they would understand that like, yeah, like Matt's an athlete that got into running. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been a runner his whole life, right? And I think what people get mistaken is that people get inspired by running and by creators and people that are in the space, by track athletes, and they want to bite off more than they can chew. If people understood like how much volume of training I've done over my course of the 29 years I've existed, like it's more than just the 3 to 4 years of endurance running I've built. Like there's so much tissue tolerance. There's so much like bone density that I've created over years of strength training, over years of playing football, right, that have allowed me to transition into this different sport and have some success like relatively quickly. Yeah. And success is all subjective. Like someone that's a proper Olympic qualifier is looking at my time and saying like, he's jogging. Yeah. But equally, people that are looking at sub 3 as like, oh my God, that's my North Star. They're looking at my journey like, oh my God, Matt did it in a year. I should be able to too. Yeah. So the reason I feel like my football journey is important in this process is that like so much of my running success is on the back of being an athlete for 15 years. Yeah. It hasn't been just because of COVID. I started running and I just like got into this hobby and I got addicted and obsessed about this one thing. But yeah, if people understood like, yo, there's years of strength training, years of sprint mechanics and sprinting and jumping and plyometric and all these things that have now equated into an athlete that runs.
I think maybe from an outsider's perspective, I found you because of running, right? Because you showed up on my For You page because he's this runner that goes mile 1, 6:45.